Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Poe from the Pope Institute, and thank you for joining us for another Polish and Poise Sweet Chat. I'm here with Cara-Lynn Birts of Cara-Lynn Birts Photography. Hello. And Mr. Duane Nash of Nash Media. First, I want to thank Cara-Lynn for allowing us to use your studio again for these conversations. So this is our Polish and Poise Suite for the conversation. But thank you again for allowing us and for having us here. So our earlier conversations, in our earlier Sweet Chats, we talked about photography and design specifically. But we want to kind of bring them together and really talk more about business branding. So we're not going to, belabor this any longer. Let's go ahead and get right into the conversation because we've got lots to talk about. So first, what are some lessons you learned as a business owner when it comes to business photography and design for your business?
That I'm worth what I think I'm worth.
Yes.
I've always been afraid to charge what I think I'm worth because I felt like it would slow down business traffic. But what I've learned is the rate is the rate, and the people who value the service will come.
Yeah. I think that's key because I think a lot of people go through that when they first start out. You're wanting to get that business, but you're kind of saying, well, but what you don't realize is there's a lot that you are already bringing to the table.
Right.
It's more, there's a lot that goes into that cost that people don't really think about when you're asking you to do a service to them.
Yes.
And I love this example that I've seen before where someone wants to build something onto their house and the guy gives them the quote. They said, oh, that's too much. It's like, well, how about I rent you my tools and you can do it yourself? Like, okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And then he told them the amount of money. He's like, oh, I don't know, but okay, that's fine. And then he goes into saying about, all right, I'm meeting at 6 a.m. at the lumber yard. Why I do it? Because that's when the lumber. So when they start going through the entire list,
it's a process.
The process, and the customer finds out what goes into it. He's like, you know what? I'll just pay you to do it.
Right.
And so what you're bringing is your experience, and a lot of us are trained. Professional trained, our expertise. Yes. You're bringing the equipment that you've invested in, or software. There's all those things, and there's the years of experience. There's so many things that people don't realize that when you're asking a photographer or a coach or a designer to do something for you, it's not just that moment where I'm performing the service for you.
Right.
Duane, do you have anything on that?
You know what? To that exact point, those two things that you just said are kind of the biggest things as it pertains to that in terms of the training and the knowledge that you have within that particular subject matter, and also the experience. Those are two things that are invaluable that you really can't replace anyplace else. It kind of goes back to that whole analogy I had last time about the street pharmacist and taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to going to a doctor and having that done. But when you're talking about pricing and quoting the price, I'm about to name drop here. Say Adams. A lot of guys may not be familiar with that name. So there you go, right? So Say Adams, for those who are unfamiliar, graphic designer, used to do graphic design work for Def Jam during their early years up until the early 2000s. Had a conversation with him on Twitter years ago. And one of the things that I asked him was about rates and how do you quote a price to someone. And he said something to me that I still carry with me to the day. There's always going to be a time in your career. Well, throughout your entire career, you want to feel as though that you're underselling yourself or you're underquoting your price, especially depending upon how much you've learned or how much experience you currently have. So there's always going to be a battle in terms of a creative trying to dictate what their rate is going to be. And once you have an understanding of whatever it is that you're comfortable with, stick to that price. That type of clientele is going to come to you.
Let me not say I know Say Adams. I know his work.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, everybody knows his work.
Everybody knows
but most people don't know that the work is connected to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So let's get into that's a lesson learned, but let's get into some business considerations. For the businesses or entrepreneurs who are watching or people who are thinking about starting a business, let's get into some things that can maybe help them a little bit more. Because I know, of course, it's first order, what is your pricing structure going to be? But there are some things specific to your brand and how you set yourself up before you even get to the quote structure. let's kind of dive into that a bit. What would be the perfect business branding package?
Wow, the perfect one.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing, right? It's like clothing. You have to understand what your size is, what your needs are, and what fits you. And that's what's perfect for you, because everything's not going to be necessary for everyone. So,
It's a consultation.
yes, exactly, right. So there's still a quote that Carrie used earlier. It's a consultation. You have to have a discussion with that particular clientele, have an understanding of what their needs are, give them what they need, and maybe even give them some suggestions that they may not have been thinking about that may be beneficial to what it is that they're looking for.
Right. Because it's not a one size fits all, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't buy large, and large fits me like it fits you, like it fits him.
Like it's going to fit me.
Right. So you have to have a consultation. So it will be the designer, the photographer, the coach, and the person that's needing the services. So they can describe what they need. You never expect this photography session to be an exact carbon copy of the previous photography session. Just like if I said Nash Design, I don't expect him to crank out everything that looks vanilla and the same for everyone by just changing the colors, because then it doesn't suit the needs of the person needing the service. So it takes a consultation.
I'll say, I know for me, when I start out as an example, the first, I guess, package, if you will, that I kind of put together the pieces, I made sure I got my headshot done. Because starting a business and when you're making those connections and collaborating, or if people kind of want to put you on, they're going to ask you for your headshot and the bio.
Right.
And so that headshot is going to live forever in all kinds of, across all kinds of media that, you don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
And so it was very important to me to start off with the headshot. Now, my personal business lesson learned was come with the right attire. Even if you say headshot, don't limit yourself, because there's so many things that the photographer can do during that session, and all I really brought was just clothes from the waist up. And it's funny when I look back and look at those early shots, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
It was a journey for us all.
Yeah. So for me, I thought at a minimum I need to have a professional headshot. I didn't start anything. I didn't even start a website until I had that headshot, because I was going to give the person who's going to design my website the headshot. So that was key for me. And then, of course, doing all those things of having a website design, logo design, all that kind of stuff. But I can't put stop that enough. I don't know if you, I'm just like kind of reflecting right now. Do you have anything that you're thinking, like from either your experience personally with setting up a business, or kind of what you've seen, but if you have a lesson learned from, like, what is that main thing?
The main thing that people
you think back.
Wow, that people will need.
That people will need, or maybe that you learned from when you set up your business a long time ago.
Wow, the very first thing that, of course, that I thought of that I was going to need, because for me at least, there didn't need to be a face attached to what I did.
Right.
So my face is literally my logo. So it's just having an understanding of what your face is going to be, and what the very first thing that people will see whenever they're looking for to use you as your business. So maybe it is a photo solely, maybe it's just a logo solely, maybe it's a combination of the two. But I wanted my logo to be a reflection of myself. So of course my logo is a stylized version of my signature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually it's a stylized version of my real signature, but of my artistic signature. So that's what that is.
Okay.
So it's just a reflection of who I am. You get to see, well, you have an idea of who I am as a designer through my logo. So you want whatever your face to be a representation of what you want to convey your business to be.
So basically what I heard, that towards the end, you tuned into really a reflection of you.
Yes.
And I think that's key, because I know when I was setting up my business, I locked myself in my room for an entire weekend to plan everything, to really think it through. Like, I was thinking about not just logo, but even just the name of my business. How did I want to put it together? Because then I was also thinking, what is the website URL going to be tied to my name? Do I need to have a long URL? Am I going to come up with a business name that I can shorten, like a DBA or something? Like, all those things I was just kind of thinking through. And I'm so glad I did that, because a lot of times people just kind of start putting stuff together to hurry up and start a business.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, they're even having to do brand refresh or kind of pivot, and maybe a hard pivot, not something, soft pivot. So at least for me, I appreciated that I took the time to really think through kind of the future of how I was going to represent myself, how I was going to, present myself, the name, this, you don't want to be changing your name midway into business.
No, you don't. No, you don't. But see, it's interesting that you actually went through that type of process of going through, locking yourself down and thinking everything through, because a lot of people don't do that, right? Yeah. I'm not saying lock yourself into a room and do all of that, right? But think through the process. Think through exactly what you want your name to be, and try to think about the longevity of that. That's number one.
See, my brain works as spurts, and because I've called you and said, hey, this is what's on my mind. This is what I want to do. This is what I want from you. And we always end most of these conversations with, I know someone that does it, but they do it like this. Have you thought about this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll get back to you. It was what's on my mind. This is how I'm feeling right now. And I needed to get it done. I need to get it done. And it generally turns out to be something that I have to think about a little bit longer. Think about how it's going to be received. Because I was only thinking for myself. And when I think in these light bulb bullet points, I'm really not able to 100% translate that to how a public audience would perceive it. It's going in my brain.
That's where a coach can come in and help you with that. More later. Okay. Did you have anything to add? Any additions for a perfect packaging? I know we said consultation, really, or thinking, being reflective. I guess those are the key things.
Yeah, those are the key things. Planning.
If it's business branding, don't plan your content for just that one session. When you come to the branding session, come in mind with, I need to plan content for at least about 3 months. So that when you get all of those photos done here, I might be in my office, I might be in my spa, I might be at whatever location my business is working at. I think that I need content for at least 3 months, and not just 1 or 2, 3 posts or brochures to share, right? You want to make sure that you maximize the time that you spend with the people that are providing the service and the money that you're spending on the people that provide you the service, so that you have enough content to hold you over until your look changes, or you get more people that need to see a more updated version of you than you presented when you took that branding session.
Yeah, and to follow that up, don't be afraid to have to change your look.
Yes.
Because, everyone doesn't get it right the first time. Even big companies don't get it right the first time.
Right.
Coca-Cola doesn't get it right the first time.
That's a great example.
All the iterations of their various logos. NBC doesn't get it right the first time. Right. So even big Target, all of these companies, they go through reinventions with their branding and trying to get an understanding of what works for them at that time frame.
Right.
So even if you don't get it right the first time, just have an understanding that, at some point in time, you probably will have to change, but don't be afraid of having to go through change.
Exactly.
That's a good segue for this next question.
Okay.
Brand refresh.
Wow.
So, what should a business consider if they need to do a brand refresh? And, when should they consider doing one?
What I'm considering, I just took new branding photos, so I've only posted or shared 3 on my social
great,
media.
by the
Thank
way.
you.
Love it. I was like, she loves, I'm sorry to interrupt. She told me a while back, I love shooting in white. And she did them in white. I said, oh!
I do.
The price just went up.
Yesterday's price.
This is not today's price.
Okay. Go ahead. Exactly.
So I have a friend, and she does all my photos, and I do all her photos. And I said, I'm coming to the studio. You meet me in my studio. I need white. I like the white aesthetic. I like everything to be clean. So for me, give me the question again, because I was going somewhere.
Brand refresh.
Brand refresh. I think you have to send out welcoming colors. I'm all about colors and vibes. You have to send out welcoming colors that make people feel great. You have to be, in terms of my offering, I feel like I need I like white. Color is going to be here and there, but I prefer white. I prefer to showcase you if we're in a studio setting. I think they need to be warm and inviting. I'm not a fan of, even in my home, I don't like dark colors on my walls. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel like I can offer you my best. So with that being said, where I was going with this is my branding board from when I worked with the person who did my logo years ago, and I feel like I need to update it. But the colors that she gave me were consultation on the colors that make me feel good. My favorite color is gold. So everything is centered around black, gold, and white, but the accent colors they don't make me feel good. So you rarely see anything that I put out that has anything with that. It's a celadon green color. It doesn't make me feel good. So I haven't shared that. Yeah, so brand refresh, it's a consultation with the designer. They want to know where you are at that moment. They want to know what colors you feel work for you, and then they'll send you a complimentary palette for the colors that you think work for you and your brand. I think that's really important when you're talking about brand overall, because you want to make sure it's something that people can receive. Like if I wanted to be brash in your face, yo, today we doing photography and cuss. I want some bold colors like a big fiery black, a big fiery red, or something that's orange to say, we're gonna be high energy the whole time. If I just want to attract, okay, so I'm looking for my feelings, very professional. Just want to keep this clean because I'm in a corporate world and I want to reach this type of audience. I'm going with something a little bit more softer, and I want to talk to my designing guy about, hey, I want to meet this audience with this particular feel or vibe that I'm giving off. It's all about colors and feel to me. When you're doing a brand refresh. Now, you might not always be the mellowed out person at the time you are when you're going through the brand design. And a year later, you might feel different and want to be more aggressive with, how you're presenting yourself. And to me, it all revolves around colors.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because that goes back to training and having someone that has that understanding of color theory, right? And the things, the emotions that colors evoke or invoke within people, right? And also having an understanding of what colors are being used in the industry that you're in.
Yes.
So when you have those understandings, you can also navigate, okay, I want to stay within what it is that the industry is doing. Maybe I want to do something a little bit different than what the rest of the industry is doing so I can stand out. And what do I want my clients, my potential clientele to feel about me when they see me and have that understanding when they come to me, this is the type of vibe that I'm going to give off. So color theory and the understanding of it is very vital as it pertains to graphic design and also photography as well, right? It's also done in photography and film because it's the color schemes that's being used in the work all across the board is going to be conveyed, and that emotion is going to come through.
So I learned something. This is a pivot from what you're saying. I learned something a while back when you look at certain films.
Yes, I was thinking about that when I was saying that. Yeah.
Films and color and lighting. Certain lighting is used to portray a mood. If you go back, and I think it is Spider-Man. What's the guy that's dating Zendaya now? Anyway.
Tom, whatever.
Tom, yeah, I think that's
Sorry,
right.
Tom. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. Can't remember your last name, but I like the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, in Spider-Man, there's a love scene towards the middle or towards the end where they're outside and it's nighttime. And if you look at the mood that they're trying to give you, they always project this very soft light over the female. And the male will have kind of like regular lighting because when they get to those scenes, they're trying to make you feel a certain way about the energy that the female is putting off and how she feels about the male. So if you look at the lighting, it'll be like, oh, she's very well softly lit and he's just a regular dude. And then when they come closer, her lighting kind of carries over. They're trying to reflect the mood for you. If you look at the lighting, and this might have something to do with who's producing it, but the lighting on the first season of How to Get Away with Murder, how could you feel about that? you had to feel, first of all, you had to look really hard, right? Because Viola Davis is dark,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't like her very well in that first season.
Nope.
But it was also a very demure mood for the entire show because we were investigating a murder. So all of the lighting was real low. All of the scenes, a lot of the scenes when they were outside of the classroom were mostly at night in her house, and the light, or in her basement, and the lighting was very, very dark. Right? And it projected a mood. The colors of that TV show projected a mood for you to feel a certain way.
And you did it.
Right. I know I pivoted, so.
No, because it's odd that you say that, right? Whenever I think about that, especially pertaining to color theory, one of the things I'll instantly go to is this old article I read years ago that talked about color theory used in movies and film. And one of the most iconic things that always stands out to me whenever I think about that is the conversation about Fred Krueger. And the
We're going way back now.
yes, and the intent that they did when they chose the color scheme for the sweater that Richie wears. Because the color scheme of both,
Pay attention.
You know,
Color scheme of attire.
yeah, right. So of course, when you think green and red, the first thing you think of is yes, right.
Not Bernard. It's Christmas.
Okay.
Well, yes, Christmas, right? But God, I forget the psychological thought process when you put those two colors together outside of the context of Christmas. Those two colors are very jarring. Very
They are.
harsh.
Right.
And they wanted you to have that thought process when you saw
Very
him.
aggressive.
Yes, and that was the reason why his sweater is those colors.
And this is one of the things that I talked about in a post on Instagram, I think about a week or so ago, where I was saying, use of color, and something when you're starting out, make sure you're not going to be an expert, of course, but if you seek out the expertise of someone who is, all right, professionals, they can help you understand use of color, whether it's what colors you decide for your logo, and what you mentioned earlier, speaking to the industry, what are some of the norms, understanding your audience. These are all the things, and then we talk about just the attire. It speaks to, and you were kind of talking about this as well with attire, like just having an awareness of whether it's the emotions or whether it's the environment you're trying to set, the connection you're trying to make. Color is very, very important to understand. So,
It's about what the client wants to give off also.
Yes.
They want to have a red or green
and that's part of the
targeting a
conversation.
specific audience.
Yep.
Oh no,
There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong at all.
It's a mood. Right?
Yes, right. It is, but the thing is, the clients have to have that understanding of that's what's going to happen
Right.
when you do that. Don't just blindly say, "I like these colors. This is what I'm going to do."
Yeah,
right.
We know a lot of people do that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But again, of course, the customer is always right.
Yeah.
Okay. The customer is always right, so you give them what it is that they want. But at the same time, make sure that you give them knowledge and understanding of what it is that, hey, this might not be the reason why you want to do that.
And
if that person knows.
I'm glad you said customer is always right, because I'm going to just be truthful about it. Customer is not always right. And we talked about this in one of our earlier conversations. I forget whether it was the photography conversation or the design conversation, but a lot of times when you go to people, and I'm saying people, not professionals, when you go to people and you say, I would like X, Y, and Z, they're just going to give you X, Y, and Z because that's what the customer wants. Customer's always right. They're not going to tell you, well, that might not work for the target audience you're going for.
Right.
They're not going to tell you, well, that outfit might not work for the way, the type of shoot you want and what you're going to use those photos for.
Right.
But it would be great though if you not only seek out the advice of professionals, but you establish a relationship where you are comfortable taking the additional, perhaps maybe unsolicited advice of the professionals.
But is it unsolicited if you're consulting with them? They're just giving you what you're consulting with them.
True. The fact that you're even consulting them, because that's different. Where professionals will actually engage you in a consultation, it's because someone who knows how to do, graphic design or can take, photos, doesn't necessarily mean they're a professional. And so the way they approach the work or the service is going to probably be a lot different. And I think that's what that glad you brought that up. That's a key difference that you will find a lot of times when you engage a professional. You'll have more of these consultations to really help you, and they're really trying to be of service to you. So I know regarding a brand refresh, I did a soft brand refresh. I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, my logo didn't change or anything. I added another secondary logo for an offshoot project, but I did a lot of reshot the headshots. For me, the time where the question I asked her was like, is there a time to do it? For me, it was when my look changed. And we talked about that before in the earlier photography conversation, but my entire look changed. I cut all my hair off. I'm older. I'm targeting a slightly different demographic. So my attire changed, how I presented myself was changing, all those different things. Yeah, which is fine tuning.
Yeah.
And so you can do a what I like to call a soft brand refresh and not a hard one. But I know there's a client I'm working with who we're just kind of doing a soft as well. Kind of put some finer touches on there. But I think it's something that you shouldn't necessarily shy away from if it's needed, you know. Even whether you're trying to pivot the type of services you're offering, changing your demographic, or if it's a complete change in your look, there is a necessity. And I'm glad you brought up also, I want to go back to, you said have enough content for several months.
Yes.
And we shoot like once a quarter now. I've been keeping tabs. We shoot like we've actually, it's funny because I used to do shoots with Cara-Lynn every once in a while. But now over the last year, thanks COVID, it's gotten to be once a quarter we're shooting it. But I think that's a good,
and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. It's a good, I think, timing to make sure you're trying to actually keep your content fresh and keep some new things coming in.
And it's been a dialogue.
Yeah.
Because we'll come in with a plan, and we'll start with that plan, and some things may deviate, some things may, when I say deviate, I mean enhancing what we discussed prior to. So it's been good.
Yeah.
But I would also say, just real quick, don't necessarily be in a hurry to change too, right? God, I forget what the exact saying is, but I know a lot of times once you've gotten to a point of seeing your branding enough, you start to get bored with it.
But you're getting bored with
it. Yes, you're getting bored with it because, of course, you see it every day.
Right.
But that means that you're using it enough to the point where it's starting to disseminate. So deal with that boredom for just a little bit. If it still sticks around after about, God, I'm about to be real liberal with this and say, I'm gonna actually give a time with it and say about a year. If you're still about bored with it, then it's time to start rethinking it and then probably approach it a little bit after that. But just because you're instantaneously bored with it, don't necessarily think about going to change it just then. Give it some time because your potential client base is still getting used to that and still seeing that for the first time.
I mean, I know when I look at my branding, I get excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, because it's weird, right? The logos that I use for myself, for my own personal design stuff, for my sports coverage, it's been the exact same logo that I've been using ever since I came up with it. Yeah. But that was also because I kind of locked myself in a room.
Right.
And thought about exactly what it is that I was going to do.
I've never been in this locked room.
I was saying, I literally locked it down, honey. I was just like, I'm not coming out until I figure this thing. Because my thing is, a lot of times when people start a business, they already have a job, full-time job, family, whatever. Yes. And you're just thinking about it in pieces. Like you said, your brain works in spurts. You're thinking about it in pieces.
Bullet points.
Bullet points. You're just jotting it down here, jotting it down there. But I said, I'm about to really start something big. Let me give the time that it needs to have to really think this through. Because once I pay this money for this URL,
it's ready to go.
Once I start working on this trademark, once I start all these things, it's go time, and it costs way too much money. Now, granted, some folks start businesses with small budgets, and they don't throw a lot of money into it. That's fine. Kimberly Poe.
You start talking about trademarks.
I said, no, I'm starting, because in my mind, I said, I'm not just going to be an entrepreneur to start a business. No, I'm trying to build something.
Right.
And I'm thinking already about branding.
Yeah.
And where this can go and what to do with this. So I had to lock myself in the room. I was like, it costs too much money to just be right, that looks great. Or like you said earlier, I like these colors. I'm gonna go with it, but you don't know what those colors mean.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was me.
Because it's interesting, right? So I started doing my sports coverage. The first thing I wanted to do was, of course, when everybody thinks about when I'm thinking about HBCU sports, I'm thinking about it from my lens. So the first thing I'm thinking, okay, let me use A and T colors. No, because it's making me look biased. So my thing was, since I'm covering everybody, I tried to figure out the colors that which most schools use as a whole and come up with that combination. And ironically enough, it's still that blue and gold.
I'm glad you said that because when I started out, and one of the things for my particular industry, it's kind of associated with people of a certain class structure, let's say that. And you start thinking more about luxury and royalty and things like that. And one of the first colors that come to mind is royal blue. And I said no, because I don't want this to be associated with my sorority. And because people know me and having that affiliation, and I did not want, I didn't want that to, I'm just saying, be associated with.
You want to set yourself
apart. Right. I wanted to build my brand and build my business, my own. Had to be a reflection of me.
Right. Your identity.
My identity, yeah. And so I was very keen. What other colors, speak to luxury and royalty and all those different things. So, right. You got purple, you got black, as you were saying earlier. So I said, I'm going to center on purple. It's the color that most people don't really think of a lot, but it is used a lot when you really tune into the royal family and really getting deep into
the church mothers.
Yes.
They like some purple.
They are the royalty of the church. Okay, the church mothers. All right. So there were some things that color theory. I really took that to heart as to understanding what are the colors for my industry, my
audience. Now it's your brand. So I know when I see purple and the Pope, I definitely look for the Pope with the plate in the middle is a plate to me. Then I know that it belongs to your brand. Right?
Yep.
So,
all right. So, I have another question we're going to pivot to, and then I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up on this one, and then we'll do our part 2 conversation.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. If a business needed to choose between photography and design, which one is the investment? Like if you had to make a choice.
So you really would start a versus right here.
I sure am.
I'm not Jada.
Mr. Versus.
We do.
Well, you know what the odd thing is? In this situation.
Jada versus everyone.
Well, in this situation, right? Not just because of my girth, I'm going to go ahead and be the Fat Joe in this situation.
Okay.
And let me explain why I say that.
But
right?
I'm not. You don't even know where I'm going to go with this.
Okay, well.
So I got a good example of why I would not choose myself first.
Wow. Wow. Because oddly enough, that was what I was going to do the same thing, right? So if you really pay attention, everybody was expecting Joe to do his street stuff, right?
Yeah.
And do nothing but his street stuff. And my God, I was hoping for it. So when he came out, the first few songs he did was his street stuff. Yay, Joe. Joe about to win this thing for me. The second half, he came out and started promoting his album, right?
It's Jose.
Yeah, he was Jose. He was businessman Jose at that point.
Yeah.
And in essence, he was more so, because he came out and said he was like, nobody wanted the battle job.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go ahead and big up my boy
Mm-hmm.
and salute him for the stuff that the greatness that he's put out.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, and I said this before, my best work is done when I have great photography.
Mm-hmm.
So I can have, well, I shouldn't say trash, but I can have mediocre design work, but the photography.
These words we're using are so
Real.
There you go. But if you have great photography, that's going to draw a person's eyes. That's what I'm thinking to myself. But that's what my thought process is. If you're doing anything with photography, your design work can kind of be lackluster because, in my opinion, people's eyes are going to go to the photography first. And if it's drawn to the photography first, They'll just look at your design or your information, like, okay, well, that's the information, but I got this great photography. Now, if you have both of them hand in hand, my God, you have beauty. But yeah, if you just have trash design by itself, then the design is going to stand out, and you're going to instantaneously know that there's a bad design. But when you have that bad design next to a great photo, then yeah.
Well, here's my counter.
Okay.
I'm working on another business that Nash has designed a logo for. We've been slowly developing this business because when we put it out there, we know we have to be correct in what we present.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our LLC, we have our samples from the vendor. And the next thing I told my business partners, we have to get a logo. So we are very, very slowly off the ground, and what we've only been sharing is our logo. What I want to do is, when you see that logo, I want you to feel like you feel about Wu-Tang.
Get excited.
If I look across the room and I see that W, I know that I'm RZA, Inspector Deck, Raekwon,
You
Mel,
got
you guys. I know that I'm gonna go down the members of Wu-Tang. I know that there are people associated with that logo. So right now,
I'm excited. She mentioned it. I'm excited. That's what she wants.
right now we've used our logo. We've only been publishing the logo and telling people that it's coming soon. When we get the product branding on the packaging how we want, what we're going to do then, you've seen this logo enough, you know something is coming with it. We will create photography images. We will create images that feature people with just a flash of that brand on that image, because I want you to have the anticipation of, we know what she does. Oh, the logo is hot. Something is coming. And when it comes, I want you to be like, dang, I waited for it. That's hot. So like, I want you to have that same feeling that you know it's some people associated with Wu-Tang. And when they come, they're going to have you in the zone. You're going to be there repeating every rhyme. You're going to know everyone's single individual project that comes with it. But collectively, you're anticipating that there's always something great associated with the Wu. So he's made our logo. I'm a photographer. My business partner has the ideas, and I can translate my ideas to her. So when we do launch this product, the photography is not going to take away from the logo, and the logo is not going to take away from the photography, and it's not going to take away from the product that we're pushing, right? So, but you're going to have the anticipation that I got something cooking. And when it comes, you're going to be like, wow, I'm ready. I want to get that.
See, I'm already sitting here excited because, I'm a Jersey girl and Woo and American Song season 2 is out.
I'm enjoying it too.
And I'm just in my head, I'm already thinking of the lyrics. Like everything you were saying, I'm sitting here trying not to have the lyrics in my head and pay attention to the conversation.
But in the 90s, what we did was we studied CD covers because we were looking to see, we've been listening to this voice on the radio, right? Because people would drop singles. Right. And so you jamming out to the single, but you gotta wait to get your $20 for Tuesday or Friday when the project dropped. I think it was Tuesdays.
It was Tuesdays back then, yeah.
Tuesdays. And then after you've been listening to the song for a whole month, 2 months, I gotta buy the CD because I need to see what they look like, and I need to see who they're giving writing credits.
Yes, you read that whole thing cover to cover.
You read it, but they lured you in without even seeing them. And when you saw them, it was like, now I want more. Memphis fine as hell. So let me make sure I get this Wu-Tang. Don't scratch up my CD and don't mess up the booklet that comes inside. I need to see what these people look like. And I want to see this dude with these contacts. I need to watch the video now. I need the visual of him with these white contacts on train. I need to see these people because they build the suspense by putting out a great brand or putting out a great product or sound before we could even see it. It's different now, but we went to school in the 90s. So my thought process is I'm building for something, and when I give it to you.
So you're saying photography, you're saying design.
Yeah, but I'll say in those instances, right?
It's a handshake, though.
It is a handshake. It has to be a handshake. But in that instance, what you're saying is it's just the logo by itself. So if it was the logo with a graphic originally.
But you know it's something coming when you see it.
Oh yeah, when you just see that logo by itself,
You
so
know
that logo
something
has
is
to be
coming,
strong. No,
right?
Yeah.
You know something great is coming with it. It's like even with what I'm starting, what you created, just the symbol, just the image without the text.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that, you know something is coming with it.
But I guess it depends then on how you plan to introduce yourself, and I guess it will determine which one makes sense to do.
Mm-hmm.
So with you,
That's a conversation with the coach,
with the coach,
Mm-hmm.
hello somebody,
right?
with the coach.
It's a conversation with
It
your coach
is.
to tell you, look, this is how I'm coming at it, and we're building, we're working on it, but we want to keep this buzz. And when we show these images,
Yeah. And again, the expertise that a coach, a professional, can bring to these conversations and these ideas you have, they can really help you understand. For example, when I think of conversations I've had with clients and even just others who, in casual conversation, and it's amazing when you think about things people don't think about when you're talking about how you present yourself and where to make an investment and really understanding what you're doing. Don't just make moves, but really understand what the consequences of those moves you're making. And a lot of times where I've seen, I think about when you're working with a client who's maybe thinking about a brand refresh, and you're trying to see kind of what they're bringing to the table, what they started out with, and you can tell automatically kind of like, all right, I see how you came about this. I see here's where we need to kind of tweak some things, and the things that weren't thought of the first time, let me help you think through these things now.
right?
Let's go ahead and really be strategic in what we do this time around. Then just when you're kind of starting out, you're like, I need a logo. Let me just throw that out there. Or I need some shots done. Let me just go ahead and throw this out there. And it's like, think about it. So
if you're not careful, people will give you exactly what you asked for.
they will literally give
Exactly.
you what
Some
you
shots,
what
don't
you
get
asked
these
for.
shots.
Yeah.
Speaking of, like as an example, you say you want a website done,
I don't get this Wix.
they'll give you that good looking Wix. Now, let me help you understand, because this is why I keep, foot stomping professionals' expertise. Just because someone gives you a website, okay, they know how to do, they know how to put a website together. It looks decent. Doesn't mean that it's well designed. Not everyone knows how to do things with, good design principles. And then you come, fast forward several years later, you look at it, like I've seen websites where, and the people who did the website, they tag their business at the bottom. I don't know, to me that's
I think it's tacky.
it's so tacky.
If you pay for the service.
Right. It's so tacky that you have to put your name on someone else's website to say, I did that work. You got a portfolio, let people see that on your site.
Right.
Don't tag your stuff on the. See, I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's one of my pet peeves
It's
as a coach.
necessary. I used to post my logo on pictures on the internet, and then I realized this is weird.
Don't need to do all that.
People still do it.
Yeah.
They do.
Quote unquote watermark, but it's weird to me
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. But you go, but okay, you want to tag yourself onto that website? Tag it. Because I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to go to your website and look at all your work, your portfolio. And it's interesting how this person's website looks like all the other websites you've done, including potentially your website. So I'm like, so you don't really have much in your toolbox, do you?
It's a template.
It's a template. It's the only template they know. And these are the things that, again, when we talked about in the earlier sweet chats, where we talked about, photography and design, look at a person's portfolio. Be very, look at it with an eye that you're just kind of, look at every single detail. I mean, evaluate that thing, tear it apart, really look at what you're about to pay for. Because 9 times out of 10, if I see something like that, I'm just going to think, what if I don't want my website to look like that? I think about my first website. That website was designed like in a similar fashion as all the stuff in that person's portfolio. And my thing was, even though it looked good, so like what you were saying, when you get tired of looking at your logo, I got tired of looking at my website. After a few years, I got tired of it. And everyone's like, oh, what's wrong with it? I'm like, yeah, but it's not really reflective of me, like we talked about.
Yeah.
It's not really, I felt I was locked into a lot of different things. But that's because, again, what we talked about before, when you were rushing in, you're trying to get this done, get that done. I didn't feel like setting up my own website. I had other stuff I was focused on. And I didn't really think through all these different things about, let's think about how to really build the site with good design and with the way that I can grow with it and make sense for my industry. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't think about when you're setting up a site, as an example, is there really a site that works for your industry? For you to really showcase your expertise, the things you have to offer. So there's so many different things that I feel like, just lessons learned and how I can kind of, again, from experience, I'm able to help clients understand kind of just, those things. So if they're kind of starting out, here's some things that I wish I had thought about when I started out years ago. But again, I'm foot stomping. Work with a professional, whether it's a professional photographer, designer, business coach. We can help you really put together, your image in a way makes sense, and that some shelf you won't become talking around. I need a brand refresh 2 years later. You're doing it every 2 years, every year. You just change up the look, you just change the logo, change the color. So, but with that, we're going to end here, and we're going to go ahead and get ready for part 2 of our conversation. And so, hopefully, again, you found a couple of nuggets in this part 1 where we've been talking about really working, thinking through some things that businesses should think about, whether it's in the beginning of setting up your business or whether you're midway in and you're thinking, I've been at this for a while, what are some things that I probably didn't think about? And so we're going to pick up where we left off and really give you some additional wisdom, some tools that you can use as far as really thinking about how to expand your brand, how to elevate your image. And with that, I thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you for part 2. Thanks, bye.